Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to my bonsai retreat, and for many of you it's 3 days since you last saw me, but for me, quick bit of lunch, get the stuff down here, and it's time to pot these oaks and indeed these hazels and the other oaks up. Now, having seen the amount of roots that I actually took off with my electric pruner, I'm quite satisfied that I'm probably going to be able to do a little bit of soil removal and then basically get them into some pond baskets. Don't think I need to go bigger than that. And to that end, I've got some soil that basically is all the recycled stuff from this year, and it's been sitting there in there cooking in a container, so I'm quite happy to use that. I've got some extra sphagnum which I might mix in, because I do find that using the sphagnum just gives the roots an extra medicinal boost, I find. And you know, I'm not joking, it's going to be more tough. Oak, when they're taken out, I keep saying to you, I have really good results, and to that end, you know, the two that I've got here are 2 of 15 that I dug up in 2019, 2020 from the very same establishment, and I think in total I've taken probably 40 or so from Aveland, and of those 40, I think I've got 32 left. So bearing in mind the volume we're talking about, I'm quite happy with those results. I say it time and time again, everyone has different results. I know some of you out there will absolutely swear blind that you've got to be careful with oaks and that they're a nightmare and that what I'm doing is wrong. Well, hey, this would be the 6th year that I've followed this approach with oaks, and for me, it's not wrong. Anyway, let's crack on and find out what we're going to do exactly with these oaks. Now, I suppose the first thing that I really need to answer, and we'll use this one as the first example. Look at that. It's got a little robin redbreast has just literally landed there. Hello. I know why you're here. You're here for the worms. Lots of little interesting trunks. You saw how far I've cut it back. And if you look at the base, this is probably the one I fear for most. You can see how thick and solid the bottom of that root base was. I've removed 80–85% of the roots off this, but we have got a lot of fine roots there. So we'll wait and see. But what we have got is right here is a root there that's coming up and around. Now the temptation could be to actually remove it, but I'm very, very familiar with oaks that often you find you take that root away and that actually leads to all the roots at the base. So we've got some nice ones here which hopefully will give us something, and really I intend to leave that exactly where it is, and I think that's what I'll say to you. We're now in the middle of November. Yes, we still get root growth, and yes, I'm hopeful that we'll get some root growth over the next 4 weeks, but ideally what we need this to do is to really bed into the soil that it's going to be sitting in there, held firmly in place with some wire. So to this instance, although I may at a later stage get rid of that, right now it's going to stay exactly there. And in terms of the great big knuckle that's down the base here, that could be something that has to stay ad infinitum, or at least until 2 or 3 years from now, when maybe we get a nice plane of roots higher up the tree. But there's some roots there, so we'll see what happens. And in terms of these, I probably won't cut anything more off that. And I suppose the question you're saying now is, how late can I go into the season to do this sort of work? And I've always aimed at doing this. Normally, if you look back in previous videos, it'll be in the first week of December, just when we're starting to get the cooler times, and but before we get the overnight frosts. I normally leave it as late as I can. Well, I think we're finding right across the world, and certainly I know Nigel in the bonsai zone is finding winter's coming quicker and earlier. The next opportunity, moving out into late winter, before the buds start opening up, when again, still just about to come out of dormancy. That's another great time to be digging up. So, got some wire on the pond basket. I am just going to put a little base of sphagnum there, and the roots that we have got, we definitely want to be getting those into the soil. and I'm sure many of you have done things like this, so hopefully it's not anything new or scary. But I will say this, although I've had great success with oaks, whenever you do anything that's field recovered or recovered from the wild, you have to accept that there is a greater chance of the tree not coming through, no matter what you do, because especially with oaks, you are taking away an awful lot of what the tree needs to survive and kick on in spring. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. We don't have a go. Okay. Now I'm going to bury it quite deep. Oh, and I must shout out a correction. In my last video about oaks, I said that, to my knowledge, they don't respond well to thread graft. Well, Kenneth of Bonsai, KDB Bonsai, said quite clearly that he has no trouble doing fusions with them, and thread grafts go on fine. So, Kenneth, thanks for that little extra information. Got a little bit of wood that I will clean out there. And a little one there. Probably that one needs to come out. And that one. And we'll just tighten that up. And for those of you who've been with my channel for a long time, you'll know that right now we're down at the bottom of the garden. And I do hope to be filming a lot more down here in 2026. Now I'm just holding that in enough to keep it firmly in place. And as I say, I have put sphagnum moss within the mix. Am I tempted to do any pruning on it? Probably do. Just take a little bit that's not going to be part of the design. Although this will probably get pulled right back to here. Right now I'm going to leave it and see what buds in the spring. And the only thing I've got to do is seal the tops. And I'll say this now, again and again, you know, people might say, oh, you should have done a bit more protection on them. Well, actually, sitting in the sphagnum moss is fine, kept it nice and moist. But you've seen the system there that he's got. Some of the stuff that I've recovered had been dug out 3 weeks ago. And it'll be absolutely fine. So long you've got a lot of health and vigor in the actual trunk or the roots itself, then all of these will be fine. And the main reason for sealing these up really is to help safeguard against any pathogens or horrible things getting in. Bear in mind how the others have gone in the retreat. I'm relatively happy and confident that that will give us something to work with over the next few years. Now this second one, nice bit of movement in there. I do like that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential on that. Although potentially, I'll take that. I'll do it right now, actually. Take that off. Have that coming down. Interesting. Again, we've got the same thing. It's been in the ground for a while. Not a lot of taper. We've got higher roots there, which is the ones we want. And this great lump here. Goodness, will you go away? I have definitely got this little red tit just over my right shoulder. Can't beat having a tit over your shoulder. So that will definitely have to be removed. Is that? And I tell you what, doesn't that make life a lot easier? Okay, I think actually I can probably fit that in all right looking at that. So in terms of attachment, probably going to take it over one of these. There we go. There we go. Now that branch will definitely be removed. That's the one I want to keep because we've got this one on this side. So I'm not a problem with scarring that. And again, these will get absolutely soaked with water and then get soaked again because it's going to rain solidly for 3 days. And I'm hoping really what's going to happen is this tree is going to get at least 4 or 5 weeks before post-Christmas. We might then start getting some really colder weather. Like the other one, just remove some of the terminal tips anything that isn't going to be wanted, 3s, 2s, all the usual stuff, bits that are in crotches, quite happily remove those now. Crossing, don't want that. Going up, don't want that. Probably a bit high on the tree to be looking. 1, 2, there's nothing there. May well end up not keeping that. But for now, let's just do that. Get rid of that one. That one. I'm just going back to some buds basically. I'm going to leave that there for dieback, but really, although I'm going to keep this, really don't need much of that. Again, with a lot of these, you're looking really for the spring to see how it responds. And I think what I'll say is critically for these, I talked about using petroleum jelly on the bigger ones. Again, because I know I'll actually be cutting that quite a lot further back, this is just about sealing it in. I'm not going to spend a fortune on Japanese wound putties or whatever that promote cell division or whatever. All I want is to make sure we don't get water in there and we don't get any infections per se. And the thing I'd say now, don't be surprised if you do things, certainly with your oaks or your field maples. You can do these sort of operations and sort of plan for having a tree this height, and then what you actually find is it sends up loads and loads of shoots from the bottom, and this lot can die off. Should be okay, but be prepared for it. Now, as I say, we're moving into the late autumn winter period. This isn't the time for basically doing anything to try and get decent healing. All we're doing is securing it and keeping it safe for the winter. Next year, when we start seeing lots of buds and shootouts, then I can revisit those with a view to some proper cut putty and actually get some decent rollover happening. And this is the third one. Interesting movement. Sealed off all the cuts, and looking forward to seeing exactly how it develops. But yeah, so that's the 3 oaks. We'll obviously catch up on them in the spring when, fingers crossed, we'll get some budding, because if we don't, I have no doubt, Noah, you've got every right then to whack something in the comments. Now, we are losing light. I'm going to pull out the 3 hazels, the bigger ones, because I need to get them all potted up, and I'm running out of time. They are going to go into the old washing up containers that have got holes that have been drilled in the bottom, and I'm going to follow exactly the same process. We'll have a look at one of them, because I don't think I'm actually going to remove much of that soil. I think I want to keep that intact, because, as he said, those have actually been lying about on the surface, dug up for nearly 3 weeks, although it has rained for nearly 3 weeks. Here we go, and if you look at it, we've got this one, which I'm really impressed with. Lots of fine roots underneath, and I don't want to muck about too much with the mud. I think I'm going to follow Hugh's advice. He said leave it. I'm just going to take some of these little ones off, but it's quite a flat base actually if you look at it. And the reason why I say this now, certainly when you've got bigger stuff like this with all the energy, this is probably the best time to do your root removal. You really do want to remove as much of your roots as you feel you safely can. How much is enough? Well, if you look at what we've got there, that to me feels as safe as it's going to be. Certainly it's enough that I can get it in the pot. Okay, I've got my soil in there, and I have been using the 1 centimetre leca at the base, so, and that's just giving it a nice fine porous baseline. And all I really need to do is, heavy enough as it is, seat it in. And as Hugh said in last video, those fine feeder roots with a bit of wetting down will probably still be okay. Just petroleum jelly the tops, I'll be waiting to see bud backs that are going to happen in the spring lower down on these trunks. And I think, as you'll see here, it's amazing. It doesn't matter how hard you try. I spent 4 hours in the end collecting, and at this time of year, one of the things that we're obviously fighting against is the fact it gets dark very quickly. So I really stress, you need to make sure you have your pots and your soil ready so that you can literally come back, as I've done here. If I wasn't using the camera, I could have done the whole lot probably in about half an hour. These sort of projects, once you've done the recovery, you are looking at leaving it really for a couple of years. And if you have concerns, well, the very next thing that might happen with this is it'll go into a growing bed. Probably spring 2027 it'll go in a growing bed, and the reason for the growing bed is I'm going to want to do much better wound healing on these big cuts here. Yeah, really like that, Hazel. Well, definitely light's going to defeat me for the videoing. You'll have seen that I collected together that scrap of, I don't know, 15 or so 2-year-old oak whips that we talked about, and you know, these probably are 50-50 in terms of survival rate. They've been lying about for ages. I don't know how long. They've only got a few roots on them, so they're sitting in a bucket of water. I'll keep them soaking this for 24 hours. It has got a slight fish emulsion in there. I have found, or been told, that that can be quite good at reviving or aiding a tree like this. They're technically in distress, but they are also dormant. All that's going to happen with those, I will put them as a clump into a probably a standard deep pot, and again just let them go for a few years. Now obviously I've also got 2 more of these to sort out, this clump, and the process is going to be exactly the same. They're going to go into these pots, they're going to be watered, and then just allowed to enjoy life in the bonsai retreat. Okay, well, believe it or not, it's actually 4 days later, and the rain's finally let up. And in fact, I've got the window fitters in, replacing a load of windows downstairs and all that. So that's all going on, forcing me outside. But first of all, this is where I just clumped together the oaks. And the reason why I did it this way is because they had been out for quite a long time. There really is no guarantee how many of these will actually take. But I suddenly saw this inspiration. I thought, why not just a chaotic rumble of trees growing up, and depending on how many actually make it through, I think with the right sort of landscape pot, that could actually be surprisingly good in a few years. So that's the first one. Obviously, if we find out that some of them are dead, then there will be at a later stage, probably in a couple of years' time, I'll split them. Really, again, as I say, it's the waiting game with all these oaks. As I know I keep saying and keep stressing, and Hugh said in the previous video when I collected, there is a risk with your oak. You do take away 85% of the roots from these. So depending on how much you leave above the ground, you can risk losing some. But I'll show you in a minute some of the ones that I collected 4 or 5 years ago, and they're all still alive. And in fact, just to reassure you all, this is one to say this was collected in 2019, 2020, and nice thick trunk there. It's slow. The process I find with developing oak can be quite slow, and you can have odd years where they really don't do anything. This certainly had a dormant couple of years after collection, but now we're slowly starting to get some good spread of branching here. It's going to come out this way. These two, got to clean off these. And again, oaks generally, this is the sort of thing you can be doing right now. Just get rid of all these little suckers and sub things that you're not going to want next year. So we've got the main 2 here. This is growing out this way. And again, I can shorten these down. And in fact, here's another one of the successful oaks that have stayed in the shallow pot. And it's just, hey, it's like everything. When you put stuff in shallow pots, it takes longer to recover. And I think the key is it's that first year after recovery, really don't prune anything. Got some work still to do on it, but the chances are I may, with some of these, put them into nursery beds next year. We'll wait and see. But look, it's got some lovely movement, and this one had been lying there at Aveland for a couple of weeks out of the ground. Seems fine. And obviously you'll know that there's a load of oaks that I'm using for my bonsai and fangorn forest. So that's coming 2026. But no, I know I keep putting it off. Let's have a look at these hazel, shall we? And this is the first one. No, it's not the front, but I think you can see there we've got lots of potential, and these will start sending out new shoots from lower down these branches. So though we see these stubs, the eventual design will be very, very different. Quite like the way that curves away, and perhaps this is a secondary growing something from there. I do like that. And yeah, there's lots of potential with this one. Ultimately, it really does depend on where this hazel decides to send shoots from. And then we've got this one. Although it's potentially two trees together, they're already starting to fuse in there. So yeah, there's a bit of a clutter in there, but again, same thing. It's all about waiting to see where this thing sends new shoots from. Down here, this is the one where a branch had obviously been pulled away at some point. I've absolutely caked it in petroleum jelly. And the whole idea is right now I can't do any major work on hardening because it's just so damp and cold. But what I want to do is hopefully just protect it as much as I can with a great load of petroleum jelly. And then we'll be able to look at that next year. So that's the second one. And then we've got this one, which again, I really, really like it. Very, very interesting base. Quite wide, quite thick. And again, we've got this deadwood area that's going to be able to work as a shari in there. I can imagine this branch here will get taken back quite a long way, if probably not removed, but I may well bring it right back. And if I don't, although this is very, very straight, what I'll be looking for is some new buds or that to come out from a lot lower. Otherwise that will get removed. Because imagine that removed, big thick base, and we've got that. Lots of options, and that's why I've kept some of the branches on, because it's about options. And that's got a little bit more movement in it. And really it's just about seeing what springs forth in spring. But I'll tell you what, I think that day at Aveland was fantastic. I think I found some good material. You know, the oaks, actually, out of all the oaks, I actually like the clump of 20 or so all thrown together. This one I love because I like this. And do you know what? I think we're going to see some really good bonsai developing from some of these over the next few years. Oh, just thought. I did actually purchase something, and I'll say now, Aveland isn't just about digging trees up. They also have a whole wide assortment of collections of stuff that has been potted up or ready for you to take away. Got some blue cedars. We've got tulip tree. Looking further on, I know that there's some Scots pines, there's some yew, there's all sorts here. And I may well see if I can find myself, well, at least one decent yew that perhaps we can be getting on with in 2026. I mean, there's everything, the usual sort of stuff you'd expect. As I say, they outsource for markets or for anyone who's looking to grow hedgerows or to develop their own forest lands and stuff like that. But I must be honest, though, I love the things that are already being put in tubs, so to speak. In truth, there's nothing better than getting in there and digging something up yourself. And look here, we've got some, looks like a deodara. Yeah, another cedar. Look down here. So we've got some nice sort of sized trunks on there, and these could definitely be worth coming back to the retreat. Even here, we've got stuff developing, hawthorns, pines, cedars, spruce, buddleia. There's all sorts here, and little bunches of oaks. That's where a lot of my oaks I got. Little 2-year-old sapling seedlings. If you're anywhere near this area, it's actually a fantastic place to get yourself sorted for the coming season. Now, needless to say, it's quite tall right now. It's probably 3.5 foot. But it's in one of these root pouches. It's got a kangaroo on it. Absolutely love it. Loads of branches, lots of shoots, still quite flexible. Haven't got the wire for it, and truthfully, I'm just going to leave this and think about what to do with it in 2026. So again, If you're interested in the cedar, I've got a couple more down there actually that I need to look at. Then that's going to be packing the show in 2026. So hopefully you've enjoyed this two-part series on collecting field-grown stock, what to look for, what to do, and then how to treat it now. As I say, we're November the 22nd, and in another couple of days, temperature's going to drop down to just above 0 overnight. So it's getting cold, but they should be fine. And tongue-in-cheek, I have actually been referring quite a number of times to an email, and it's from Noah. And I'll say this to you now, Noah. I need and I appreciate all sorts of comments, all sorts of experiences. But I will say this to you. I've had a lot of success with oaks, and despite you saying the things I did are wrong, for me, in the bonsai retreat, they are right. And all I'll ask you is I do appreciate you commenting, as I appreciate everyone commenting. But perhaps, my feelings don't get hurt, but perhaps we can be a little bit more constructive and say why it won't work, why it needs to be in a deep pot, and why you've obviously had such bad experience with oak. But anyway, for everyone else who's enjoying this, thank you very much. Continue to watch. It's your involvement that makes this such a fun hobby, and I look forward to doing more stuff. Now, who here is thinking, when's a great time to go to the nurseries and pick up maples and other stuff? I am, because I've already booked in for later this week to go to my favourite Savin nursery, and I'm going to be looking for maples and all sorts of stuff that, let's be honest, most nurseries now want to get rid of. They'll get new stock in the spring, so this stuff's going to be bargain. So if you want to join me for that journey, have a look and find out what it is I look for in nursery material, particularly in maples, maybe yews as well. In fact, there'll be all sorts. I'm probably looking at Fuji cherry too. Then join me in probably 4 or 5 days time. Otherwise, that's a great video about Savin nursery. Happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.